everyone. Welcome to Tuesdays with Trailblazers by HRTechEdge, the video podcast where we explore the latest trends and insights in HR and technology. I'm your host, Neha, and today we have Gary Lipkowitz, Chief Executive Officer of Vyond, the Agile Video Creation Studio. Having extensive experience in managing distributed international teams, Gary has been leading Vyond for the last 12 years, first as the Chief Operating Officer and then as the CEO since 2018. Please join me in welcoming Gary Lipkowitz. Thank you for joining us today, Gary.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, Gary, we will start with your phenomenal track record in SaaS, digital media, and traditional media. Tell us how your experience in these fields shaped your vision as Vyond's CEO and promoted Vyond's mission as a video creation studio.
Sure. Just want to give one line of context because we keep saying studio. I just want to make sure everybody understands Vyond is not a production company, but it's a SaaS or cloud software video creation platform where you can make videos very easily. No harder to do than making a PowerPoint, and now even easier, powered by AR. So that's just a little bit of context. But coming back to your question, I'm going to answer in the context of Vyond's commitment to driving positive business outcomes for our customers. Because video is great, everybody loves video, but in a business sense, why, unless there's going to be a measurable improvement in results? Vyond doesn't exist to make our communications cute. Vyond exists to make them engaging and effective. So my deep belief in our ability to do so is rooted in some of my early career experiences, which I'll now get around to answering the question and share with you now. When I began my career, not to date myself, but this was with the combined Arthur Andersen and Andersen Consulting, we were primarily focused on making training videos. We were housed in the Center for Professional Education, and they had a tremendous training production function, and we supported them. Except one day, out of the blue, I got a call from a partner wanting help with the sales effort. And that resulted in me doing a ton of research about the practice area, then flying all over North America, interviewing firm clients to talk about their experiences with this kind of engagement and how much benefit they'd had by having Andersen Consulting come in. We packaged those together into a case study format, put a lot of information on top of it. And in the end, the firm won the engagement, and the client actually cited the video as one of the differentiating factors in making them choose Andersen Consulting. So that was not only a great win for the firm, but it transformed our department from training shop to moneymaker. And I think everybody listening will completely understand the difference when you're viewed by your organization as a cost center or when you're viewed by your organization as a moneymaker. So that was the beginning of my transformation into video evangelist. Not only did we go out and win a big engagement for the firm, but it changed the nature of our department almost overnight. Different example, maybe less dramatic and exciting. Later on, I was doing some freelance video work for Dell, and we spent some time down in their assembly lines. Now, people probably never knew this or don't remember. The assembly lines, you usually make the same thing over and over and over again.
Correct.
What made Dell really different back in the day was they were doing custom orders. That was their whole thing. You could customize the computer, you'd go fill out a checklist, you'd get exactly what you want, but they were still building it on an assembly line. They were having their cake and eating it too. Assembly line throughput, but customer gets exactly what they want. But as you might imagine, in that environment, doing those two things together, the potential for errors or in an order or for the line to get backed up is very, very high. So we went down there and actually just shot video of the assembly line going on to kind of catch mistakes in the act and see how they could be reverse engineered and prevented. And it was a fair amount of work, but in the end, we, and not just the video, but I mean the entire project, of which the videos were an important evidence-based part, reduced errors on the assembly line by 75%. The stated goal for the project going in was to achieve 20 to 25%. And we got 75%, both because we captured the facts and people could actually see the raw footage, they could see the evidence, and it became something that was easy for them to believe because it took place in their environment. It wasn't just coming from some boardroom down as a list of things to change. It was very practical. So that was another video evangelist moment for me. I guess the last part taking a completely different tack, is that after doing all that corporate video, I spent some time doing film and entertainment. And in that environment, I always had an appreciation for storytelling, but I developed a greater appreciation for the value of storytelling and also the importance of capturing an audience's attention quickly. This was something I used to say all the time in the corporate video world and got pushed back upon, but I'm still convinced it was correct. If you're starting a training video, if you're starting an onboarding video, do something entertaining that's fun for the viewer in the first 10 seconds.
Correct.
Even if you do nothing fun ever again, you'll have some lean in, you'll have some buy-in. People show up to these training sessions thinking this is going to be like having teeth pulled without anesthesia. I don't want to be here. And all you have to do is make them laugh or do something funny in the first 10 seconds. That disappears and you get buy-in. And for me, lean in and buy-in are stepping stones to the holy grail, which is immersion. When you can get people to immerse themselves in your content, then that's when the magic happens. Engagement, retention, all of those things skyrocket if you can get people to be immersed in the content. And that's where the storytelling comes in. I will stop rambling now.
And I think that's what goldfish attention span, that's 8 seconds, and that's what humans are right now struggling with. And shorter videos, of course, they actually initial couple of seconds matter most.
I was just going to elaborate. I mean, someone's attention span might be 10 seconds when they show up, and you give that first engaging moment before you ask them to hurt their brain thinking or memorizing or reading an agenda at them, and then their attention span goes up. That's what I mean by lean in and buy in. They will be more patient, will be more willing to commit to paying attention than they otherwise would be.
Correct. That's insightful. And thank you for sharing your vision for Vyond. And that brings us to the importance of Vyond's USP. Let's talk about that. Video has become an essential communication tool for today's globally distributed workforce. Can you discuss how Vyond is enabling effective collaboration between remote teams and what makes Vyond stand out from other competitors?
Sure. One challenge, and I'm going to summarize because I want to make sure I'm on topic here. One challenge we hear about from our customers a lot, especially in HR, is the need to establish culture and community across global organizations, while each location itself may have some kind of remote or hybrid work policy. So it's like the usual challenge of building a culture globally, raised to a whole nother degree, because even within a single location, it's really hard to build culture because not everybody's showing up and interacting with each other and having those water cooler moments, as we say. And that degree of difficulty goes up again when you factor in the need to be, and this is again something we hear from our customers, the need to be consistent on message and values, but localized on delivery in terms of both language and style and how people especially are represented. And I bring up people because videos often have people. How you represent people is a very important part of localization. So I think video, and in particular Vyond videos, are well suited for this. The first reason is the speed of engagement that we just mentioned in the last topic. Oh, it's a universal panacea. I mean, you just have to find a way to reach people, and if you do it right at the beginning, you get more buy-in. Then there's, we're using a very simple, non-obtrusive 2D animated style for the most part. One of the benefits of using 2D animated video in your communication is that it abstracts away from a lot of level of detail, right? Even look at these backgrounds we have. And they're blurred out for a reason. It both makes it nicer visually, looks more photorealistic. But if it was super crisp all the way to the back, we might be looking at the computer wondering what brand it is. Or, oh, look, one of the leaves in that plant is starting to turn brown. Too much detail distracts people away from the content. Now, come back to the challenge at hand. We want to be consistent on message and values, but very local in presentation. And if there's too much detail in the video, we start distracting from the message and thinking about all the other things. Like, that's wrong. That's not exactly how it looks here. Or that person's office dress is, from one county over, but not from here. So it doesn't feel right to me. And it's not that those things are necessarily so bad, but they make people disconnect from the content. So the 2D animated video, it's enough to signal that this is the right environment, this is an appropriate background for the content being shared, but there's not so much detail that people get down in the weeds and start thinking about the weeds instead of what's being communicated. That's a very important part of what we do. Another tremendous advantage for animated video, especially in building culture, or let's even put a DEI context on it. Let's say you had a scenario-based learning or some kind of scenario-based scene with two people in it. Who are you going to cast? Again, in a DEI context, you might have to pick two different flavors of people, but which two do you pick? And in the audience, people are going to like some of your choices and not like some of your choices, and then they're going to think about your choices instead of the content.
Right.
And that's a problem. In animated video, it's very easy. You just make two characters and they just look different than each other, and you win. It's enough detail to make the point that, see, we are representing diversity. We support a diverse workforce.
Inclusion.
Yes, or an inclusive workforce, thank you. But not so much detail that people start thinking about your choices instead of the content.
Right.
Sometimes too much detail is too much. Abstracting away from the detail means there's less things to distract the viewer or the learner, and it allows them to focus on the message. Now we'll get far more boring. It's also so much faster and cheaper to produce videos on Vyond than it is by any other form. And I think we talked about cost center versus profit center before, and I think everybody in the coming year will probably face some kind of budgetary challenges. And this is another area where we thrill our customers. I mean, you get the subscription and you can just make a lot of videos very quickly. We provide templates. You can make your own templates and save them and make variants. If you have a regular newsletter video or any kind of serialized video, the introduction to closing can be canned, the whole thing can be templated, and you can just update the content very quickly. So speed to deployment, the economics, as well as the actual results in terms of engagement and effectiveness make for a very compelling ROI.
Right, right. So Vyond's role in enabling collaboration for distributed workforce is commendable. You made some excellent points here about the power of video to connect remote teams and Vyond's specific advantage. So we would like to know, when you are talking about video creation and its efficiency, accessibility, and user-friendliness, tell us how Vyond's unique features enable teams, especially HR professionals, in their work.
So one thing we hear from HR professionals a lot in today's climate is, recruiting is difficult. So I have to spend a big part of my day finding ways to do upskilling and reskilling at scale. Okay. Video is always a preferred method of training for upskilling and reskilling, but there's always this thing around it that it's literally and figuratively a production, and therefore it's difficult, time-consuming, expensive. It causes a headache. I have timelines. I have to manage production companies I don't really know how to manage. It's daunting. So the first thing we do is, again, we reduce that to, look, it's a SaaS platform. You can log into it in the middle of the night, in your Reuben slippers, and point and click and get things done. It's very easy, very user-friendly. But specifically, we've built the workflow around templated scenes. And I'm sure the significance of that is not coming across, but let's put that in a spectrum between templated videos on one side, and you start with a blank screen on the other side. When this platform was first created, you started with a blank screen. And then we saw a lot of templated video companies come out and fail. So the blank screen is just too much work, right? It's the same as starting to write from a blank page. The blank page problems can be, you just get stuck. We totally understand that. It's natural, never going to go away. Templated videos are too restrictive, though. There's not enough flex for you to get your content in the way you need. So we had settled on templated scenes. And within HR, if you were to log into Beond, you could browse the templates, and one category is HR. So very quickly to find a lot of settings and scenarios, again, at the scene level, that would match your content. And the first thing you can do is just drop a bunch of templates in a row, and suddenly you're like, wait, I've been here 15 minutes. I think I'm 80% done. So that's really nice. Then you can roughen your content. And I would encourage everybody, even on the first draft, just use the text-to-speech voices. Because another thing you can do with Vyond that's really hard with live action video production is just rough it together. Use the templates. Don't even add any extra the templates are all dynamic and have a lot of movement and bells and whistles and dynamism built in. Before you change any of that, just put in your text on screen where you need it, put it in the text to speech where you want to have narration or dialogue between characters, and then you're ready to share for feedback and review, just like you could with a PowerPoint, quite unlike how you could do if a production company came in. Right then, they're going to shoot a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to go away into a black box process, come back 4 weeks later. Your fingernails will have bitten down to the nub because you're nervous about it. You spent all this money and all this time. Is it going to be any good? You don't have that issue with Vyond. You can always look at it. Other people can always look at it. If you do what I said, you might spend an hour. And then already you're getting feedback if you're going in the right direction. If you're not, very easy to course correct if you were not, and very easy to press on if you were.
Interesting.
Talking about the templates, and I want to come back to that because I think it's directly relevant to your question. One concept that we built into the product was the idea of instant relevance. If you go into come on this platform, we have over 40,000 unique animated assets that our animation team has created. We've recently integrated more than 3 million stock images and video clips. You ever try to search 3 million things? Not a great experience. So we've really oriented this by grouping the assets by like HR is an easy one. Sometimes by role, sometimes by industry, sometimes by, if it's a metaphorical thing like superheroes, it's very easy to find what you need because we're pursuing a concept called instant relevance. We want you to find what you need to put your story on your feet instantly so that you don't get stuck and that you don't get a headache. And so that should really be seamless. If you're an HR professional, you go in, you search templates, you click on the HR category, and all of a sudden everything looks relevant. And suddenly you're in a shopping aisle where everything is good and you can just click and they appear in your timeline. You can reorder them, whatever, start plugging in your content, see how it looks. And like I said, you'll be ready to circulate, get feedback in less than an hour. And once you have feedback, then, adding the extra pieces to the video, maybe when you're really rock solid that the content is correct, then you'll go record real voices, maybe you'll add more bells and whistles or not. Like I said, the templates have a lot of dynamism built in them already.
Correct.
So when you watch a Vyond video and things are flying in and the characters are moving and there's sparkling things going on, like it's most likely the end user didn't do that we did it all for you in advance.
Okay, that looks like a very seamless way of, going ahead for a function or a topic or something like that, which is relevant, or you're making a theme around that.
I just wanted to continue before we move on, because that was the old Vyond. Now we have the AI powered part. So I want to give you 2 examples. Within Vyond Studio, which is what we were talking about, you grab a bunch of templates and suddenly you need, and I'll just use the same example, and you need an office plant. And you search for office plant in our props because you want to add one to one of the templates, and we return you like 10 or 12 and you don't like any of them. Now there's a little button that says generate with AI. You click that and 4 more office plants will appear in your library in about 10 seconds. We're using AI to continue that sense of instant relevance, right? First, we put everything in front of you, made it easy to find. And now we're using AI to solve the problem. Like, just what if none of them floats your boat? You don't have to settle. You can just click a button. And 10 seconds later, you get 4 more. If you don't like those, click the button again, get 4 more. Going back to the Dell example or the factory floor example, we also have something where, for instance, the movement of people might be the content itself. So our characters can do all sorts of actions, but if there was a specific action happening on an assembly line, there's no chance we're going to have your specific proprietary action relevant to your business.
Right.
Now we have something called video to action. You could shoot that with your iPhone, for instance, send the video to Vyond and click video to action, and we will turn it. I mean, our AI will recognize the character from the background and will turn what the person is doing into a character action, all automatically. So again, we're pursuing that instant relevance. And on the ultimate form of this, at least for now, we now have Vyond Go. We know many people start a video with a content outline, and then they want to adapt that into a script, and sometimes that's a sticking point. Now you can go to Vyond Go and you can type some prompts. You can paste in a content outline, or you can do both. Like, make me an onboarding video, about this long in length with this kind of tone, but I want to focus on this content about coming to work here, and you paste that in and you press the button, and in less than a minute, you'll have a rough cut of your video. So instead of you choosing templates, now we get you to that rough cut that I said might take an hour. Now we get you there in about a minute. And when you get there, because you let the AI write your script, it's likely you'll want to make some edits. We also provide a simple text editor adjacent to that. So you can just simply go in and change the words, and it will in real time update the text to speech or the text on screen in that rough cut we built for you. And now you can get to that point where you could send something out for feedback and review in a matter of minutes.
So that's a lot of saving of time, right? That's saving a lot of time. Yes.
We hear speed to deployment is very important to our customers. And so this is some of our efforts on the speed to deployment, right? Using the templated workflow is good. And now we've taken advantage of modern technology and made it even faster. And the end goal is that you should be able to, it may be a year or two before we get there, but show up at Vyond and forget about pointing and clicking, just say, hey, Vyond, make me a video about this. And then it will start putting the video together while you talk to it. That's our ultimate, instant relevance and speed to deployment effort.
Oh, that's fascinating. And, this interactive way of dealing would be beneficial for all kinds of teams. You talk about marketing, you want to explain something. It's a very good way. So could you share some of Vyond's strategies for breaking into new market and staying competitive in the dynamic video industry?
Sure.
What are you doing? Yeah.
For us, breaking into new markets means identifying roles within the organization that can derive benefit from Vyond, and then crafting an approach to them in terms of, messaging, how we can describe the value that we would bring, and then having the product features to back it up. And you were alluding to that earlier. You were saying not just HR, this could be good for marketing or something else. That's how we think. So a big thing we're working on now, for instance, as we're essentially doing what you said, and we're encountering more and more departments within the enterprise. And now, for instance, as we move from internal use cases to external use cases, such as the marketing example you gave, we now need to ensure that our output can comply with enterprise brand guidelines. And some of it is about look and feel, and some of it is about review and approval. So we're actively listening to our customers, and then building the features to address their needs, and then rolling them out into the product. And sometimes we'll roll them out with like an early version or a beta to say, and then we've got a big, what we call Vyond Spotlight. Some of our biggest customers come in and we'll say, look, we're rolling this out in response to your needs. Can you guys really use this feature a lot and tell us where we got it right and where we got it wrong? And then we'll go back into another iteration and then advance further down that particular roadmap. So we like to get to a first milestone, get it in the hands of our customers, and then get feedback from them to ensure product market fit. The one word answer to your question, which I should have led with, is we break into new markets by ensuring product market fit. And there's two ways to do that. The first one is to guess, and the second one is to listen. And we emphasize very strongly on the latter.
Correct. Of course. I see that there's a lot of ideations and innovations happening at the back end when you're talking about, and Vyond is staying ahead in this hyper-competitive market. Moving on, could you share some of the exciting innovations Vyond has up its sleeve for upcoming years? Have you planned anything which is like in the pipeline? Would you like to share with our audiences?
The main thing that I want to share is what I was talking about earlier. We're trying to get from a point where you log into Vyond and you do things such as point and click, drag and drop, type, and you're using software to build a video. So you're like the IC, you're the contributor, you're doing it. And we want to get to the point where you're not the video producer, you're not the video editor, you're the client, and you talk to Vyond, and Vyond makes the video for you. Because I think that's where the future of the human technology interface is going. We think that would be a lot more comfortable for people. Even no matter how easy we've made video production to become over the past 10 years, people still think it's hard. Like people who use Vyond don't, but people who haven't still think it's hard. And even if you tell them, oh, well, we have this software, it makes it easy. What's our first thought when we think about learning new software? Oh, I don't have the time. I'm getting a headache. So Vyond Go, the prompt-based one, has been very good for dispelling that, because we can give a demo in literally a minute. Before they can even tell us, don't give us the demo, we're done. And they're thinking, oh, that's amazing. I want to do that. But we still need to take it further. And that would be, you sit down, you look at something like a Zoom screen we're looking at now. Maybe we'd even have an avatar that you could customize that you would interact with and say, hey, Beond, or my avatar will be named Neha. Hey, Neha, please make me a video. This is what I want it to be about. I've just here, I want a onboarding video about this long in length. The tone should be friendly and a little bit funny, but not disrespectful in any way. I've just pasted in a content outline. I've dragged in my color palette. And just that, I give you things in an intuitive way. And then I sit back and you make the video for me, you being the avatar I've set up in Vyond. And I look at the rough cut and I just talk to you. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. It's a little long. Can you shorten it? And you gave me, 2 minutes, 15 seconds. I want it to be 90 seconds. I gave you the color palette, but I think the pink is a little wrong. Here's the exact text code. And like that. That's the environment we want to provide for our customers. We think that would make them the most comfortable and the most productive and lead to the highest ROI. Because if they can express themselves in a way that's the most natural, then they're going to get the best results back.
Right. Thinking years ahead to resolve not only the current challenges, but also that's yet to come. I think with that, we're almost at the end of this amazing session, Gary. Just one last question. I noticed that beyond your professional life, you're into writing, improv theater, and public speaking. How have these personal interests impacted your career and life? We would like to know more.
Writing helps me focus. I really like to get my thoughts clear in my head. And I do, the way I go about it is, I think, similar to the way everybody listening goes about it. Who am I addressing? What do I need to get across? What do I need to accomplish? Or put simply, who's the audience and what are the objectives? The next level is then, well, what's the medium? I think in business, a lot of us compose in words and sometimes numbers, but are we writing words to be read or words to be spoken and then heard? Written language and verbal language are very, very different. If you're writing dialogue for video, you don't drop in paragraphs from a document. That would make for a terrible video. Are we writing for visual media? If you're writing for a visual medium, you should be thinking in pictures more than words. This is a really hard leap for people to get across. It's not easy, especially the longer we spend in the workforce really doing words and numbers. It becomes a lot harder to think in pictures. But in a visual medium, most of the value is going to be communicated by the images, and the words are actually a supporting role. A real common problem I see in business videos is they're over-verbalized. And that means too many words being spoken, by characters in a dialogue that results in a dialogue that's not the way it would be spoken, or a narrator who talks so long, people start tuning out. And the visual part becomes just wallpapering the words. That's not a good video. Another way to think about it is that video is a rich medium. Think of a rich medium like a band or an orchestra. We need time for all the instruments to play. When you over-verbalize, it's only the vocalist. But what about the trumpet? What about the tuba? What about the drums? What about the triangle? Rich medium has the ability to use different instruments in different modes to sustain engagement. That's what makes it entertaining and what enables the immersion. But when we over-verbalize into a visual medium, we make it monochromatic, and it sort of fails its essential purpose. Lastly, it's good to consider the environment when you're writing. So we've talked about making a video, but a video that would play like before the keynote at a trade show in an auditorium with 1,000 people and the lights down, that's a very different environment than a video that's going to play in somebody's social media feed that they're scrolling through with their thumb. It's very different. One, you're going to get a little bit of time to make your point. And the other one, you have to grab them like they're scrolling. Everything we said about 10 seconds before it goes out the window, you have about 1 second to make them want to stop, unmute, stop scrolling, unmute, and pay attention. Those are very different environments for where that writing will be consumed. That's why I think about those things a lot. Also, you'd asked about improv. For me, improv is very important. It's kind of like the acrobatic version of all of that. And for those who don't know, when you're doing improv, you get with a troupe of people and you walk onto a blank stage or empty stage, and you have to command people's attention. And it's very structured. You can't, you have to put something out there, and then one of your partners on stage has to pick it up and run with it a little bit, and you interact with each other. But that's all you have, each other and maybe some folding chairs. So you have to paint a picture with your words, but also your movement, also your lack of movement, also the space on the stage. So it really reinforces two things. One, that orchestra approach to viewing a medium that we talked about before. Because if you go on a stage and you just talk endlessly, kind of like I'm doing now, people are going to tune out. So you need to mix it up a little bit.
Correct.
Improv is also really important in that it forces you to stay in the moment. That's what it's specifically about, being in the moment. We might be on a stage together. You might make up something outlandish. I have to go there with you immediately, no questions asked. Otherwise, we're not in the moment. We think, oh, they're so funny when they're doing improv. We watched whose line is it anyway? They must have thought those lines up in advance. No, if they thought them up in advance, they'd be a day late and $1 short, and their joke would fall flat because the moment would have gone. It's all about being in the moment. And then my final thought then would be, everyone should ask themselves, who would be a more compelling public speaker, either live or in a video? Someone who's in the moment, or someone who's really married to their slides or cue cards and just not connecting with the audience at all.
Correct. So that's a good thought. And on that thought, Gary, I had a great time speaking with you and hosting you on Tuesdays with Trailblazers. Thank you so much for your time today and sharing all your phenomenal, remarkable insights. And thank you all for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. And do check out Vyond.com to enhance your brand and workplace capabilities with a stellar video creation studio. Until next time, stay tuned with HRTechEdge for more insights into all things HR and technology. Till we meet again, signing off, your host, Neha. Thank you.